The void was silent, but the silence was deceptive. In the distant reaches of the Quorran Federation's frontier, stars burned cold and ancient, their light caressing the edges of an abandoned wormhole. For centuries, this sector had been dismissed as unremarkable, a graveyard of forgotten battles and dying systems. But today the void stirred. Captain Lysara stood on the bridge of the Oriole, a sleek exploration vessel designed for first-contact missions and deep space reconnaissance. Her dark, reflective eyes fixed on the holographic display hovering before her, where an anomaly pulsed ominously. "Energy readings are spiking, Captain," said Lieutenant Gesk, her chief scientist. His clawed hands danced over the console as data streamed in. "It matches no known signatures. Whatever is happening, it's big. Bigger than our last wild wormhole chase?" Lysara said, her tone light, masking her unease. "I wouldn't joke, Captain. The wormhole," Gesk hesitated. "It's stabilizing." Lysara's stomach tightened. Wormholes didn't stabilize without a cause. The data confirmed her suspicion. Something was coming through. "Prepare a probe," she ordered. "We need eyes on this." The crew moved with precision, sending out a small, automated drone. It hurtled toward the wormhole just as space began to bend and tear. The anomaly flared bright, and a hulking silhouette emerged, eclipsing the stars behind it. The probe transmitted a single image before its signal was drowned in static. On the display, the object loomed like a leviathan, a starship scarred and blackened by time yet unmistakably intact. It bore an angular design, its hull plated with dense alloy layers and bristling with what could only be described as weapons. A faint shimmer surrounded it, a protective field that crackled ominously. Lysara's breath caught. She knew what it was even if she'd never seen one in person. "A Terran warship," she whispered. The bridge fell into stunned silence. Aboard the Iron Fang, Fleetmaster Tavern of the Heskan Empire watched the same scene unfold from a different angle. His fleet patrolled the edge of the system, having monitored the anomaly for weeks. The Heskans were predators by nature, their culture built on dominance and expansion. Tavern's spines bristled as he studied the image of the battleship on his command display. "This is an opportunity," he growled to his subordinates. "The Terrans vanished centuries ago. Their secrets are ours for the taking." "But Fleetmaster," one of his aides protested, "it could be dangerous. Even dormant, a Terran ship." "Enough." Tavern's crimson eyes flashed. "We strike now before the Quorrans lay claim to it. Send a scout wing closer. If it shows signs of hostility, we'll destroy it." The Heskan fleet surged forward, sleek, dagger-like ships maneuvering into formation. Tavern allowed himself a predatory grin. Back aboard the Oriole, the tension was thick. "We're receiving a signal," said Gesk, his voice tinged with both fear and excitement. "From the ship?" Lysara asked. "Yes. It's fragmented, but we're decoding it now." The bridge speakers crackled and a deep, mechanical voice filled the room. "This is the TDS Erebus. Terra Nova Command, do you copy?" "Repeat, Terra Nova Command, do you?" The message ended abruptly. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Lysara stepped closer to the display, her mind racing. The Terran Dominion had been the galaxy's apex power 5 centuries ago, a force of unparalleled technology and ruthlessness. Their sudden disappearance during the silent collapse had left an indelible mark on galactic history. Some celebrated their fall, others feared their return. Before she could formulate a response, an alert sounded. "Multiple ships inbound," said her tactical officer. "Heskan signatures. They're moving toward the Terran ship." Lysara's hands clenched. The Heskans were opportunists. If they attacked the Terran vessel, the consequences could be catastrophic. For everyone. "Hail the Heskans," she ordered. Tavern's face appeared on the screen, his sharp features and ridged brow oozing disdain. "Captain Lysara," he said mockingly. "Come to stake a claim? I suggest you withdraw before things get messy." "That ship doesn't belong to anyone," Lysara replied, her voice firm. "We don't know what we're dealing with." "I know exactly what I'm dealing with," Tavern snarled. "An opportunity to claim technology that will make the Heskan Empire unstoppable." The channel cut off. Moments later, the Heskan fleet opened fire. The Erebus awoke fully. Its defensive systems roared to life, intercepting Heskan missiles with pinpoint precision. Automated turrets swiveled, unleashing beams of energy that tore through the attackers. On the Oriole, Lysara watched in horror and awe as the ancient battleship dismantled the Heskan fleet in minutes. One by one, their ships disintegrated under the withering assault. "This wasn't a battle," she murmured. "It was an execution." As the dust settled, the Erebus broadcast a final message, its tone cold and unwavering. The Terran Dominion has returned. All will kneel. Lysara's blood ran cold. The galaxy had forgotten humanity's wrath. It wouldn't forget again. Lysara stood in the Oriole's dimly lit conference chamber, the holographic display casting a pale blue glow across her face. It replayed the carnage from minutes ago, the Terran battleship Erebus reducing the Heskan fleet to rubble in a symphony of devastating firepower. Even at its most ruthless, she had never seen the Heskans so utterly outmatched. "Captain," said Lieutenant Gesk, interrupting her thoughts. "There's no precedent for this. A single ship, 5 centuries old, neutralizing a Heskan fleet in minutes? It defies every principle of modern warfare." "No," Lysara replied, her voice tight. "It's exactly what history warned us about. The Terrans weren't just conquerors, they were architects of galactic domination. For centuries, tales of their rise and fall had been told as cautionary fables. Lysara's own academy studies included fragments of what little the Quorran Federation dared to preserve about them. But the reality of their power, standing before her now in the form of the Erebus, felt more like a nightmare than a lesson. "Bridge to Captain." The calm officer's voice broke the silence. "Incoming message from the Erebus. It's directed at us." Lysara hurried to the bridge, tension mounting with every step. When she arrived, the Terran ship's message was already playing. The voice, mechanical and cold, emanated from the speakers. "Quorran vessel, state your intent. You are within operational proximity of Terran Dominion property." Gesk turned to Lysara. "They're treating us as trespassers. Open a channel," she said. "If we're going to survive this, we need to make them see reason." When the connection was made, a face appeared on the display. Lysara gasped. It wasn't just the Erebus's artificial intelligence, it was human. The man wore an ancient Terran uniform, his face gaunt and weathered as if aged by centuries of war. His piercing blue eyes seemed to bore through her. "This is Commander Nathan Rourke of the Terran battleship Erebus," he said. "Identify yourself and explain why my ship has reawakened to find alien warships in Terran space." The room was silent. Lysara hesitated, carefully choosing her words. "Commander Rourke, I am Captain Lysara of the Quorran Federation. Your ship has emerged from a wormhole that has been dormant for centuries. The galaxy has changed since your time." Rourke's expression hardened. "What year is it?" She hesitated again. "The 483rd cycle of the Federation calendar. Approximately 527 Terran years since the silent collapse." For a moment Rourke's facade cracked. His gaze flicked to something off-screen. "Silent collapse. That's what they're calling it?" Lysara nodded. "The Terran Dominion vanished overnight, leaving only legends behind." Rourke's voice was grim. "We didn't vanish. We were betrayed." Before she could ask more, alarms blared on the Oriole. "Captain, incoming signatures," Gesk shouted. "Heskan reinforcements, 2 cruisers and a dreadnought." Lysara turned to Rourke, desperation in her voice. "If they attack again, this entire system could be destroyed. Help us stop them." Rourke's eyes narrowed, his expression unreadable. Then, with an air of finality, he said, "Very well. Let's remind the galaxy what Terrans are capable of." The channel cut and the Erebus began to move. The Erebus moved with a predatory grace, its ancient engines roaring to life and filling the void with an aura of dread. The Heskan reinforcements emerged from hyperspace moments later, 2 sleek cruisers and a massive dreadnought bristling with weaponry. On the Oriole, Lysara watched as Commander Nathan Rourke's battleship adjusted its course. Despite the technological gap of centuries, the Terran warship radiated dominance. "We should fall back," Gesk urged, his voice laced with panic. "We'll be caught in the crossfire." "No," Lysara said, her gaze locked on the display. "If we flee now, the Heskans will escalate and the Erebus might destroy them all. We need to stay to prevent a total war." "Prevent a war?" Gesk exclaimed. "That ship is war incarnate." Aboard the Erebus, Commander Rourke stood on the bridge, surrounded by a skeleton crew of weary, disoriented Terran officers recently awakened from cryogenic stasis. The ship's AI, a cold and calculating presence named Aegis, provided updates. "Enemy vessels advancing," Aegis reported. "Their weapons are locked. Based on current fleet strength, they pose minimal threat." Rourke's jaw tightened. "Minimal threat or not, they're testing us. I won't let the Dominion's name be sullied by hesitation." He turned to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Harper, who was busy analyzing tactical displays. "We need answers," Rourke said, his voice low. How long have we been gone and who's still out there? The Dominion didn't just fall. Someone wanted us buried. Harper nodded grimly. The data's fragmented, but I've pieced together some leads. There was a coordinated strike. Multiple alien factions working together to sabotage Dominion systems. It wasn't a collapse. It was a coup. Rourke's hands tightened into fists. Betrayed. The word echoed in his mind, fueling his determination. The Heskan fleet wasted no time. Their dreadnought fired first, a massive plasma lance cutting across the void and striking Erebus's shields. The battleship absorbed the blow with ease, its energy barriers rippling like a disturbed pond. Rourke's lips curled into a grim smile. They want a demonstration. Let's give them one. Target the lead cruiser. The Erebus retaliated with surgical precision. Its forward batteries unleashed beams of light so concentrated they pierced through the Heskan cruiser's shields, cleaving the ship in two. Debris scattered, and the remaining Heskan ships scrambled to adjust their positions. On the Oriole, Lysara's horror deepened. They'll annihilate them all, she murmured. Captain? Guess called out. The Heskans are hailing us. Tavrin's face appeared, his spines bristling with rage. Call off that monstrosity, Lysara. We demand the right to defend our territory. This isn't about territory, she shot back. You're provoking a force you can't control. Stand down or the consequences will be catastrophic. Before Tavrin could respond, another alarm blared. New signatures inbound, Gesk reported, his tone shifting from panic to dread. Not Heskan. Not Quorran. It's the Mythal Swarm. Lysara froze. The Mythal Swarm, an unstoppable plague of bioorganic warships that consumed entire systems. On the Erebus, Aegis spoke. New hostile entities detected. Analysis suggests Mythal Swarm. Threat level, existential. Rourke's expression darkened. Looks like the galaxy hasn't gotten any kinder in our absence. Lysara opened a channel to Rourke. Commander, if we don't work together, none of us will survive this. Rourke's face appeared on her screen, his eyes narrowing. After a long pause, he gave a sharp nod. Then let's see if your galaxy has learned anything about loyalty. I'll hold the line. You convinced them not to stab us in the back. As the Mythal Swarm closed in, the fragile alliances of the present hung in the balance against the ghosts of humanity's vengeful past. The Mythal Swarm arrived like a plague. Tens of thousands of bioorganic ships surged into the system, a churning tide of grotesque forms that consumed everything in their path. Their arrival dwarfed the Heskan reinforcements and even the imposing frame of the Erebus. Each moment brought them closer to the fragile coalition that barely held together. On the bridge of the Oriole, Lysara struggled to suppress her growing dread. The holographic display showed the swarm spreading like wildfire across the void. The Mythal were not conquerors, they were extinction incarnate. Captain, Gesk said, his voice tight with fear, our weapons won't make a dent in that fleet. The Heskans will break ranks. We can't hold. Lysara turned to her crew, her voice calm despite the panic roiling inside her. Open a channel to all ships. We need to fight together or we'll die alone. Aboard the Erebus, Commander Nathan Rourke stood firm, his presence a pillar of confidence for his crew. The Erebus's sensors painted the incoming swarm as a writhing, endless mass. Aegis, Rourke said to the ship's AI, status of the Stellar Lance? Fully operational, Aegis replied. Warning, activation of the Stellar Lance will destabilize the local star. There is a 76% probability of system collapse. Rourke nodded grimly. If we don't stop the swarm here, this system will be the least of our problems. Lieutenant Harper glanced at him. Are you sure, Commander? That weapon hasn't been used in centuries. We barely know if it will work. It will work, Rourke said. It has to. The Heskan fleet, battered but not broken, began to reposition. Tavrin, ever the predator, reluctantly opened a channel to Lysara. This alliance is madness, Tavrin growled. We should retreat while we can. Retreat to where? Lysara snapped. The swarm will follow us to every system in the galaxy. If we don't stop them here, there will be nothing left for you to rule. Tavrin's spines lowered slightly, his bravado tempered by the grim reality. Very well. But if this Terran weapon fails, your blood will be on my claws. The battle erupted. The Erebus led the charge, its ancient weapons carving paths through the swarm. Beams of energy sliced through the largest bioships, detonating them in massive bursts of green flame. The Heskan and Quorran ships followed, using hit-and-run tactics to target the smaller creatures that slipped through the Terran assault. But for every Mythal ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. On the Erebus, alarms blared as hull integrity began to drop. "Commander," Aegis warned, "we are reaching critical damage thresholds." Rourke's jaw tightened. "Begin charging the stellar lance. Target the star." Lasara's face appeared on his screen. "Commander, what are you doing?" "What I must," he replied. "The lance will destabilize the star, turning it into a weapon. It's the only way to stop the swarm." "You'll destroy this system," she exclaimed. "If I don't, the galaxy dies," Rourke said, his tone unwavering. "Get your people out of here. Now." The stellar lance fired. A brilliant beam of light lanced through space, striking the system's star. For a moment, everything was silent. Then the star began to collapse, unleashing an unstoppable shockwave of energy. The Mythal Swarm, drawn by the energy surge, was consumed by the explosion. The Heskan and Quorran ships, having retreated to a safe distance, watched as the Erebus remained in the epicenter. On the bridge of the Oriole, Lasara stood in stunned silence, tears streaking her face. The display showed the system's sun collapsing into a swirling black hole, taking the Erebus and the swarm with it. Gesk broke the silence. "The swarm, it's gone? But at what cost?" Lasara wondered, her chest heavy. In the aftermath, the galaxy was left shaken. The Heskans and Quorrans, bitter enemies for decades, now found themselves bound by the memory of humanity's sacrifice. As for humanity, the name Terran Dominion would no longer be a myth. It would be a warning. Humanity had not fallen. It had merely been sleeping, and now the galaxy knew what it meant to wake them.